All right, let's be real for a second.
Okay.
Who hasn't, like, scribbled down a dream on a napkin, maybe hoping a little of that ambition would rub off?
Yeah.
We're all guilty of it.
Right.
But, you know, we're here because actually turning those dreams into something real,
Yeah.
that takes a bit more than just, hoping and wishing.
It really does.
So today, we are diving headfirst into this whole idea of belief.
Okay.
What holds us back? How do we double down on what we're good at? And those actual steps to make it all happen.
It's interesting because it's not just about believing in like a specific outcome, right?
Right.
It's about cultivating this deep down belief in ourselves.
Yeah.
Like our ability to just figure things out, even when it gets messy.
Which, let's be honest, it totally does.
Always.
This podcast episode we're unpacking,
Yeah.
it really dives into how we can be our own worst enemies.
Yeah.
Like fear of failure, obviously, that's a classic.
Of course, yeah.
But they also talked about fear of judgment,
Oh, yeah.
even fear of success.
It's true.
It's like we are hardwired to self-sabotage sometimes.
You almost wonder, where does that even come from?
Yeah.
Is it us? Or is it something about,
The world around us.
the world that kind of encourages us to play it safe,
To not rock the boat too much.
not rock the boat,
Yeah.
to shrink ourselves down.
Interesting.
Because if growth and breakthroughs, if that happens outside that comfort zone,
Yeah.
something's got to give, right?
It's true. This is where I think it gets really interesting.
Okay,
Because the podcast made this point about how often it's our support system,
interesting.
the people who love us,
Right,
that hold us back.
yeah,
And it's not out of malice or anything. It's
Right.
from this place of wanting to protect us, maybe.
exactly. Think about it. Someone shares a big dream they have,
Right.
and almost instinctively you might say, wow, are you sure about that?
That's a tough one.
That's a tough one. Or maybe just focus on what you're already good at. And without realizing it,
Right.
we've just planted this seed of doubt.
Which is wild, right? Because we'd never intentionally dim someone's light like that.
Never, never.
But it made me wonder, have you ever been on the other side of that?
Oh, sure.
That well-meaning, but like kind of limiting advice.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think most of us have. It's that feeling of you're excited about something, you share it, and it's met with this like lukewarm response.
Yeah, oh, that's interesting.
That's nice.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're questioning yourself.
Yeah.
Like, wait, am I
crazy?
crazy for even thinking this could work?
Yeah.
It's in those moments, though, that really holding on to your own vision becomes really crucial.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's your dream.
It is.
You own it. You chase it. You can even let it go if it's not
doing it for you anymore.
if it no longer serves you.
And that's the beauty of it, right? We have the choice. We decide.
Yeah.
Speaking of going after things, the podcast really emphasized action over affirmations. Not to knock a good vision board or anything,
Anyway.
but it was all about like actually putting in the work.
Yeah. And this is where things go from this, vague, I believe, to I'm doing it.
Yes.
It's like every step you take, no matter how small it seems,
Right.
is like a vote of confidence in yourself and in this dream you're building.
I love how they talked about it. It's almost like the snowball effect.
Oh, yeah.
Each action builds this momentum
Yeah.
that fuels your belief, which leads to even bigger action.
Absolutely. And they had this great analogy of a dream being like a guiding star.
Oh, I liked.
How it helps you navigate even when you can't see the whole path ahead.
Right.
I think that really resonated with me because it speaks to that power of having that North Star
Yeah,
to orient ourselves towards.
totally.
Even when things feel, day to day, a little chaotic.
Okay, that analogy is really sticking with me. And I'm curious, for you listening, what is your guiding star? What's that thing you keep coming back to even when things get tough? Right. Because we all know they inevitably will.
They do.
It's like those obstacles, they're inevitable.
They are.
It's like in a video game, those pop-up challenges? You
Yeah.
kind of know they're coming,
Yeah.
but you're never quite ready for how annoying they are.
Yeah. And the podcast host had a really interesting way of looking at this.
Oh, yeah.
Reframing setbacks.
Okay.
Not as failures, but as feedback.
Interesting.
It's subtle, but it's huge.
Yeah.
Because if we can see those bumps in the road as chances to learn, adjust our course a little bit.
Right.
We're not just reacting anymore, we're being strategic.
I like it. Instead of getting totally lost, it's like taking a little scenic detour.
Exactly.
But how do we actually do that? Because in the moment that rejection email pops up, that project falls apart.
Yeah.
It's really hard to see the opportunity there.
It is tough, I'm not going to lie.
Right.
But I think that's when having people in your corner really helps.
Makes sense.
Remember how we were talking about that well-meaning advice that can backfire sometimes?
Yeah.
The other side of that is, like, your cheerleaders.
Yes.
The people who remind you how strong you are when you've forgotten.
Yes. Having that personal pep squad to hype you up when you need it most.
Exactly.
And the podcast hosts talked about some amazing people who just kept going, even after tons of rejection.
Oh, I love those stories.
The J.K. Rowling story, right? Rejected by like a dozen publishers before Harry Potter became a thing.
I know. Can you imagine if she gave up?
Right. Or Steve Jobs getting fired from his own company.
Wild, right?
Those are some high-stakes setbacks.
They are.
But they both talked about how, yeah, it was awful.
Of course.
But it got them where they needed to be.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to get lost to find your way, right?
Right. But it takes like a certain stubbornness. You can't let those setbacks be the whole story. Speaking of stubbornness, the podcast really thought persistence was key to making dreams happen.
Right.
It's almost like they thought it was this big secret.
It's funny because it kind of is a secret, but not in like a hidden knowledge kind of way.
Right.
It's more that we're so used to instant everything these days.
Instant gratification.
Yeah. And we forget that sometimes you just got to show up every day.
That's true.
Even when you don't feel like it.
Let's be honest. Some days you wake up ready to go. Other days it's a win to get out of bed.
Totally.
Yeah.
And the podcast really got me thinking about persistence that way.
Yeah.
It's not about never having doubts.
Yeah.
It's about being disciplined enough to keep going when those doubts pop up.
So less about avoiding all the obstacles, because we know that's impossible.
It is, yeah.
It's more like, how do we deal with those obstacles?
Exactly.
And sometimes that means leaning on those people we were talking about.
Yes, your team.
Remembering those stories about people who never gave up.
Yeah.
And just believing we'll figure it out.
Absolutely. And, another thing they said really struck me. It's not always about the finish line.
That's interesting.
Like, achieving the dream isn't just about fame or fortune, ticking things off a list.
Right. It's so easy to get caught up in that whole hustle thing.
Totally.
More.
Always on, always going.
But we can forget what really matters.
It's true.
Making sure what we're doing lines up with what we care about, finding joy in what we're doing.
Yes. And that's where this believing in your dream thing comes back around.
Oh.
If you're chasing something that doesn't feel right deep down, even if you get it, will it feel good?
Wow, that's deep.
Right.
That's something to really think about.
It's like ordering this amazing looking meal.
You're starving, you can't wait.
Right. And then that first bite, it's just not good.
The worst.
It happens with dreams too. What we want changes, just like our tastes change.
So true.
Something that felt huge a few years ago might not matter now.
That's just part of growing.
That's sickening.
So it's important to check in with ourselves. Ask those questions.
Yes.
Am I still into this? Does it fit with who I am? Am I enjoying myself?
Because believing in your dream isn't just about seeing that finish line.
Right.
It's about trusting that you can handle whatever happens along the way.
I like that.
Even when things get a little wild, a little unexpected.
It really is like that, isn't it? Like on this road trip.
Yeah.
And yeah, the destination is part of it.
Right.
But it's those moments along the way, right?
It's the journey.
The talks, the side trips, even the flat tires.
Totally.
That's what makes the story.
And that's what they were saying, right?
Yeah.
We don't get to choose what happens to us, but we choose how we react.
So true.
And honestly, sometimes those bad experiences, they help us grow the most.
I was going to ask, was there like a detour on your journey?
Oh, for
something that felt awful then, but now you're like, hey, thanks.
Definitely. Doesn't everyone have those?
Right.
Okay, so there was this time I put everything I had into a project.
Oh, wow.
And it tanked. Like publicly, everyone knew.
Oh, no.
It was so bad, I was crushed.
Yeah.
But looking back, I learned so much.
What kind of things?
About bouncing back, about not needing it to be perfect, and about trusting myself, even when things get messy.
I love that. It's like those tough challenges, they teach us the most if we let them.
Right, if it was always easy, we wouldn't grow.
Exactly. And going back to what we were unpacking today, believing in ourselves doesn't mean knowing everything.
Oh, no way.
It's trusting that we can handle the unknown.
Yes.
Learn as we go, change directions if we need to.
Be flexible.
So, as we wrap up, what's like one thing people can take action on?
One thing.
Yeah, from everything we talked about.
I'd say Action creates belief.
Okay.
We wait so often, we want to feel ready.
Yeah, confident.
But sometimes, just doing something, even something small,
Right.
that's how you start believing.
It's that momentum, right?
Exactly.
You do one thing and it's like, wait, maybe I can do this crazy thing.
And it doesn't have to be huge, right?
Right.
Write down your goals. Take that online class you've been thinking about.
Yeah.
Or message someone you admire. Just a quick chat.
So for everyone listening, what's your one small step today?
What will get you a little bit closer to that dream you have?
It's out there waiting. And sometimes all it takes is that little bit of courage to get started. Until next time, keep dreaming big.